here. Today we're going to be completing our space shooting game in Scratch. Alright, so let's get started. First things first, we're going to be creating a new enemy. So click here on the enemy default, right click on it and duplicate, as we want to create a new enemy. We'll just name this Speedy, as this enemy is a bit fast and it points to you. So it doesn't move down, it spawns, it points towards you and it runs. Okay, so first thing what we want to do is set the size to 25%, as it's a little smaller. Then in the operators, drag a pick random 1 to 10. We want to wait a random from 10 to 25 seconds. So it spawns in the beginning and then it waits between 10 to 25 seconds to spawn again. Next we want to create a new variable called color. Oh yeah, before recording I already had this variable, so you create a new variable called color, as this is going to keep track of the color because we want it to be rainbow and flashing. So that's going to help us do it. So first we're going to play a sound. So go to the sound category and start sound pop. But we don't want that sound. So in the sounds tab, choose a new sound called space ripple. That's going to tell everybody that we have the speedy enemy coming. And then we're going to set color to 0. Next we're going to show. Well, we have a show over here. Then position it. So it's very similar, just a few changes here and there. But change -200 to -180 to 180, and we'll spawn at Y132. Next we're going to forever set the color effect to color. Now the way this works is, if I show the variable, whatever color is, it's gonna set the color effect to that. So right now color is 335, so it's gonna set color to 335. And because variables can keep on changing, it can be different numbers at different times. Like if I write 335, if I want to change a color, I can't because it's fixed. But if I use a variable, if I change the variable, that's going to change this. So that's how it works. We're going to keep this the same before touching the bullet. Start sound, yep. And then just here, the bit where we point and run, we're going to get rid of this. And then in the motion category, drag a point towards and and switch this to player. And then move 10 steps, or change this to 4. So we're going to point towards the player and move in that direction. Lastly, we're going to change color by 5 over here. So it's going to forever keep on changing the color. And that's how our system works. So let's just quickly run over this. So when we click the green flag, set the size, hide it, forever, create a clone, and then wait between 10 to 25 seconds, and then it creates another clone. And then when it is a clone, plays the noise, sets the color to 0, shows, positions it, forever, it sets the color effect to whatever the variable color is, and then we check, are we touching the bullet? Start sound pop. Well, I already went over this. Just the last thing is, if we're not touching the edge, we point towards the player and run, and forever we keep on changing the color. Okay. Now, remember how in the player sprite we said broadcast game over? Well, right now game over does nothing. Before that, let's just make it so you can also, lose if you touch the speedy enemy. So, we're going to drag an or and say, if we're touching the enemy default, or if we're touching enemy speedy, then we're going to broadcast game over. Well, now we're going to get a when I receive game over from the events category. And first we're going to, in the control category, stop all, but stop other scripts in this sprite. So that's going to stop any other script that's running. So you see, that's going to make us not able to move, as it's going to stop this script. And it's also going to make us not be able to detect the enemies. Alright, so we're going to stop other scripts in this sprite. Then we're going to start sound as Screech. If you don't have that sound, quickly go to the sounds tab and search for it. So we're going to start sound Screech. Then we're going to repeat 10 times, change this to 5, change the pixelate effect in the looks category. We'll change the pixelate effect by 10. And then we're going to say game over for 2 seconds. So it's hello, but change this to game over. Oh, and place this underneath the repeat. And then we're going to say you scored, semicolon. And then say again for 2 seconds our score. So by using the variable, we're going to say our score for 2 seconds, and then in the control category, stop all. Alright, now let's add a bit of music. Oh, and let's just test this. Alright. We had that bit of a bug. So what we can do is go back into the enemy. And if we're touching the bullet, if we're touching in this little area, if touching edge, then we'll drag in or and say if we're touching the edge, or if we're touching the player, we delete this clone. And what you can do is drag this into the other enemy sprite. Replace this with this, and you're good to go. So let's go back to that music. First, hide this variable, and if we want music, we gotta get music. So over here in the extensions, click on music. So there we go. So this is gonna play when we die. So drag a set instrument to 20, which is the synth. What is it? Synth LED. And then we're going to play note 60 for 0.5 beats. In the control category, wait for 1 second, change that to 0.05. And then over here, right click, duplicate on this. And we're going to change 0.5 to 0.2. Duplicate this again. And change the third one to, well, leave it at 60. And we're going to change this to 0.2. And we'll leave that one at 60 and set it to 0.5. Then we're going to duplicate this, change the notes to 63, and the beats to, well, I think we can leave it at 0.2, and leave that one at 0.2. Oh, and this should be 0.5. I'm sorry about the typo. But we're going to play note 62. Then duplicate this again and set 63 to 62 for 0.4 beats, and set the other 62 to 60 for 0.2 beats, which it's already at. And then duplicate this again and set this to 60 for 0.4 beats, and set the 60 to 59 for 0.2 beats, and lastly duplicate this for 60 for 1 beat and remove the 0.05. And boy, was that a long script. And as that just plays a classic funeral march, we can place this in between here, and we're good to go for the music. Next, we're going to be adding some waves. Okay, so go into the enemy default, and let's create a few variables that will keep track of a few things. First one will be called wave count. That's going to keep track of how many enemies we've destroyed. We'll create another one called spawn rate. That's going to keep track of how quickly they spawn. And last one called speed. And you guessed it, that's how fast they move. So, quickly back into the player. Where we set the score to 0, we're going to set wave count to 0. So that we've destroyed 0 enemies. Back into the enemy, we're going to set spawn rate to 1.5. 1.5 seconds. And then we're going to set speed to -2. And what we're going to do is drag spawn rate and place it inside. So whatever spawn rate is how many seconds it's going to wait. So that way we can make it go faster and faster. Alright. And then over here where we change the score, we're going to change wave count by 1 as we've destroyed 1 enemy. Because that's where we're touching the bullet. Okay. And then we're going to drag an if. Because the way we start a new wave is if we destroy 20 enemies. So we're going to detect that. So in the operators, drag an equals, an or, and a greater than. So we're going to check, is the wave count equal to 20, or is the wave count greater than 20? Just in the case where you destroyed more than 20 enemies without the computer detecting it. If so, well, we'll put this in here, and then we're going to broadcast a new message called new wave. Okay, and then set the wave count back to 0, as we want to say, oh yeah, we destroyed 0 enemies because it's a new wave. Quickly scroll down and find the change y by -2 instead of -2 speed, so we can change it later on. Now into the player sprite, we're going to drag a when I receive new wave, we're going to say hello, but say this new wave incoming for 2 seconds. Change speed by -0.2 and change spawn rate by -0.2 as well. So that's going to increase the spawn rate, how quickly they spawn, and the speed. So I'll quickly run over the scripts we just created. So in the enemy, what we did is we added a spawn rate and speed system. So instead of a 1 second as it was before, we set it to a spawn rate seconds, which is how much spawn rate is. And then we also set the speed to -2. We changed wave count, how much we've destroyed by 1, and then we checked if we've destroyed 20 or we've destroyed more than 20, so we can start a new wave. And then we set destroyed back to 0. And then we just change y by speed. And in the player, we just say new wave incoming and change the speed and the spawn rate by -0.2. That makes it spawn faster and move faster. Okay, let's hide the variables. Hopefully that made sense. If you need a more in-depth explanation, tell me in the comments and I'll be sure to leave a reply down below. Or you can always just look back into the video. Okay, so let's start the project. Are you guys ready? Let's have it. So this is is our fully working game. And if you like, you can add more features. Well, if you wanna give it a try. Alright, and as always, this project will be said down below in the description. And if you did enjoy this video, be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps me out. Anyways, Scratch Warrior out.